Welcome to this week's episode of Operation Support Local. I'm your host, Derek Fage, and as you can see, it is a beautiful fall day, and what better place to be than here at Saunders Farm. Before I get to that, I want to just tell you that we're getting a lot of great feedback, and keep those stories coming. Visit our website, rogerstv.com. If you have a story idea, you can reach out to our producers. Well, Saunders Farm has been around for so long. It's gone through a lot of different changes over the years, and as most businesses have, they've had to go through some major changes this year due to the pandemic. I catch up with owner Mark Saunders to find out how they are continuing to invite their clients to come here and enjoy the farm.
When the early lockdown happened for COVID, we started a drive-through market, so a drive-through grocery store, to service the residents in this region that couldn't get their groceries, they couldn't get a time slot at a local grocery store, or they couldn't get delivery out here. So we did that, and we did that for about 6 weeks. We also started campfires. So this idea that socially distanced, they're 30 meters away from each other, people bring their own camp chairs, we give them hot dogs and s'mores, or a bottle of wine, a charcuterie plate, and they spend an hour and a half to 2 hours in front of a campfire. So if you live downtown and you are in an apartment, this was, like the best thing ever, having your own campfire that you don't even have to go out and get the wood or start it or figure out where you're going to go. And this is just, you arrive, and it just became this beautiful sort of date night or family night. And it's been incredibly popular all summer long, all spring and summer and fall. Now we're booking them for the fall as well. So this is something that came about through these COVID times, and it's been so popular. I think it's going to be something we'll keep for many years to come. As a business owner, we made the commitment early on to keep all of our staff on, not lay anybody off, and just find a way to keep them busy and keep the lights on, as they say. Many people may know Saunders Farm if they come on Thanksgiving weekend or a busy weekend in the fall. We could have 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people here. That's how big our farm is. It's a 100-acre property, and there's crowds, but people are spread out. It's outside. This year we're going to be operating with 100 people on the farm, so less than 2%. So when you arrive, you will probably not see anybody else on the farm this year. That's how sort of empty it's going to be, and that's what the gathering rules are restricting right now on in the city of Ottawa and in the province. So we're trying to work through that with public health and city and whatnot, because we feel that, especially on days like today, this is where people need to be. They need to be outside, they need to be interacting with each other, and they need to be in a beautiful, safe outdoor environment. This year, it's going to look a little bit differently. They're going to come into the farm and they're going to walk, and we have some of our play structures in the daytime. Some of our play structures are open. We have our haunted hayride and our pumpkin patch hayrides. You can go and pick a pumpkin in our pumpkin patch. We also have an outdoor market now, which is different than we've had before. It used to be an indoor market. Now it's all outside and spread out, and everything is a little bit more spread out. Our mazes are actually perfect for social distancing, because you have about 6 feet between the pathways, and there's a huge hedge in between, and so you can go and enjoy yourself, get lost in the mazes. And our jumping pillows, we're opening one at a time, so we're going to have some people on there, and then we're going to move them on to the other side, and we clean that one and we go back and forth. So it's gonna feel kind of like a normal Saunders Farm, but fairly empty. And then at nighttime, we've really innovated the way we're doing our Fright Fest, where you enter, you're going to walk through the cemetery attraction, and then you're going to go to the Coven, which is a themed haunt with witches in it. And then you're going to go from the Coven, you're going to exit and go right onto the haunted hayride. You're not going to have a choice to go. You're going to go right to the haunted hayride. You're going to get off the hayride and you go right through Shambles. And then when you leave Shambles, you're going to exit into a spot where we have a full patio with drinks and food and beaver tails and whatnot. And then so you can have a drink and grab one, and then head on out. And so it's a complete pathway that everyone will take this year, and we make sure that no one could double back and whatever. So it's the safest way to get through all the attractions. Now you must buy tickets in advance. before coming to the farm, because we will sell out. And we'll sell out these small, if we're only looking at 2% of the normal amount of population, we'll sell out a lot quicker. So you'll need a ticket, because in that ticket you'll get a time slot to come to the farm. So currently, like on weekends, we're selling 2-hour time slots. So 9 to 11, 11 to 1, 1 to 3, and 3 to 5. So you come for 2 hours, enjoy the farm, and then let someone else come onto the farm, so that we're not exceeding any gathering rules. And at nighttime, as I said, we're every 15 minutes another group will go through the haunts. So and they will be physically distanced and or put together with their cohorts, and that'll be all of our batchers doing that. So you buy your tickets now in 15-minute time slots. So get your friends together and come. Get your cohort together, as they say. There's another word for 2020, cohort and pivot. But get your cohort together, your bubble together, and get your group of friends together and come and do the haunts together. That's the best way to do it. We've always supported our community. We've always supported various charities and things like that. We've continued to do that, although in a little less monetary way, but we hope to, we just know we just need to get through this, do what we can to support the community, and then once we open back up again, we're going to have the biggest, safest party for people around to come out here and hug.
Well, I would normally be posing with the rest of my family members, but I have somehow lost them here at Saunders Farm. No surprise, they're probably having a great time here on the 100 acres they offer. Well, speaking of family members, Jacques Lalonde, owner of Papa Jack's Popcorn, well, he has a family business that's been around for 40 years in total, but Papa Jack's is 15 years old, and the way it came about is an interesting story. And of course, Papa Jack and his family have been impacted by the pandemic like most businesses.
Papa Jack was started 14 years ago, really by accident more than anything. A friend of mine had bought a grocery store, a popcorn machine was in there, he didn't want it, I ended up by buying it. My family thought I was nuts. When I first said, come and pick up this popcorn machine, my son said, what the heck for? I won't use the exact words. But anyway, we started, and it just kept on growing and growing. But at the time, I was the only one selling popcorn in Ottawa, other than some of the other companies that was just part of their normal trend, like Frito-Lay was selling Smart Pop. And for a company like mine, just to sell popcorn on its own, the chances of survival were not that great at the time. But we persevered as a family, and here we are. So it's been very, very rewarding for my family and myself, and to see our brand name Papa Jack. And Papa Jack came out of, I wanted something that was going to be very bilingual. So Papa, and then in Ontario everybody called me Jack, even though my name is Jacques. In Quebec it's fine, it's Jacques, but in Ontario it was always Jack. So we married the two together, Papa, Jack. With the store that we have on Thurston Drive, it basically, the factory's in the back. If you come into the store, you can see how the popcorn is being made during the week. So it adds an extra layer of, you can see the sanitation, you can see how we do it. It's not like making popcorn. Most people thought when I started this, I was making popcorn in my garage or in my basement. No, never did. It was started in this building, in the back of the building, and then we kept growing and growing until what we have now. Here in the store, you're going to find one of the things, the first things that you even saw when you came in was the pop shop. It brings a lot of memories back to an awful lot of people, and the pop shop is something that is very attractive to everybody. But we also have chocolate, we have candies that are made 5 minutes from here from a company called Rhodes Candy. We also have the Cheesecake Factory from California. It's imported into Canada, and we carry almost all our variety. a full variety of products. Other than that, we have ice cream also that is made locally from Stittsville, from homespun, which is very, very unique and very rich. If you like ice cream, this is the ice cream that you should come and have. A lot of our volume was done through fundraising and through schools. And now, unfortunately, the schools are all on the, basically on a standstill. They have no idea what they're supposed to do or how they're going to do it. My daughter and my son came up with a brilliant idea to do a fundraiser online. So basically all people have to do is to register here, and we give them a special code number. And with that code number, they tell their friends or their neighbors, everybody, to buy online from us with that code number. And then at the end of each period, could be 2 weeks, could be a month, then we'll pay them a 20% of all the businesses that we got through that code number. When the pandemic hit, we looked around in our inventory in the back because we supply a lot of people with popcorn for fundraising. We knew we had way too much inventory, and especially with the way things were going, everything was going down to the cellar. So I went down to the food bank, brought a full truckload of popcorn to the food bank, and we still had way, way too much. So we're very close to where the headquarters are for the ambulance service. And we often have people come in from the ambulance service. So I asked them if there was a boss around that I could talk to. He was here within probably about 15 minutes. We filled up his car, like a station wagon, filled it up, but it didn't even make a dent in what we had. So I asked him to come back with a bigger vehicle. He came back with an empty ambulance. They took the stretchers, they took everything out. We filled it up from the ceiling to the floor, right to the back door. We took pictures of it. We couldn't stuff any more in, and we still had a little bit left, so we put it in the front cab. He left with about 10,000 bags of popcorn. It took him 2 days to pass it out to the hospitals, to the ambulance services, to the fire departments, police stations, everywhere. And basically we got rid of most of it, which was something that we had to do. We didn't want to see it go bad, so we gave it all away. One thing I'd like to say is thank you to all the Ottawa people who have supported us and support local businesses. Sometimes people, they talk about buying locally. Now it becomes that much more important to buy locally, to support your local businesses, because not too many of them are going to survive this. We're fortunate that we're so far so good.
I have so many great memories here at Saunders Farm, especially when it comes to this play structure. I remember watching my daughter play for hours with other children here. Well, some other great memories are made at Ottawa area restaurants, and we stopped by Restaurant 18 in the market and spoke to executive chef David Godso to find out how they're in a unique position to invite people back inside to Restaurant 18.
I would say that was probably one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult day of my career. I'm the chef here at Restaurant 18, but I also do a lot. I'm also the chef of 2 other restaurants in our restaurant group, and together we have about 150 employees. So March 16th was the day that we laid off 150 employees, and that was very, very tough. It was at that time there was a lot of uncertainty. We didn't know if this was going to be a 2-week shutdown, a 2-month shutdown. We didn't know how much government support people were going to get. People were panicking, trying to apply for EI and see what kind of support they get. And the unfortunate reality of our industry is that a lot of them, it's a relatively low-paying career, and a lot of them are living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of them, have rents to pay, they have bills to pay. They're already struggling as is. So to throw in the middle of a month, losing your job and trying to scramble to find stuff, it was really difficult. Hearing all the struggles and hardships of a lot of our staff. So it was definitely a very, very tough day. So the best way to describe it was just triaging. We're trying to figure out, how we're going to manage the bank accounts, how we're going to manage, our finances, how we're going to make sure that there's a restaurant for that 150 employees to come back to, when the dust finally settles and we get to come back. It was a lot of really tough conversations. We spent that whole week meeting here at 18, trying to figure out what the next best thing forward is, what our reopening plans are going to be, how we're going to adapt to the new rules that are being laid out for us, and ultimately make sure that we're going to create a safe environment for both our staff and the guests that we want to welcome back. But it was definitely like a lot of uncertainty. We didn't know that it was going to be 3.5 months till we opened our doors again. The wage subsidy is something that has been really helpful for us. It's been a bit of a struggle sort of getting the paperwork filed and making sure that we're getting that reimbursement in a timely manner, because cash flow is the biggest issue with restaurants. So if we're operating at higher than we normally would labors because our revenues are down and we're staffing more people so that we can take these extra steps of service that we used to not really do. So that's something that helps. We were able to put up a nice tent on our patio, which helped us sort of get back to some pre-COVID numbers, especially in the last couple of weeks. But I mean, like I said, it's ultimately about making sure that we're following the protocols and that we're creating a safe environment for everyone. It's the focus has been on the guidelines are great, they help, but I'll be honest, there's a lot of holes in the guidelines, especially when it comes to the restaurant industry. It's a lot of it seems to be about the perception of safety, when there's a lot of things that we need to sort of do better than just those protocols to make sure that especially people like our dishwashers, they're the ones handling food, handling plates that have been forks that have been in people's mouths. There's a lot of areas of concern there. So making sure that we're doing what we can, having the proper disinfectants, having the proper procedures with our staff, making sure that they take it as seriously as they need to. And luckily our staff have been doing a tremendous job. The dining experience that we try to aim for already is one that you don't want people to feel crowded, you don't want people to feel like they're stuffed in here like sardines. So we were fortunate that it was pretty simple for us. We had to remove only a handful of tables from our restaurant in order to meet those requirements to space out our tables. Other restaurants, not so much. We've got other restaurants that have sort of more permanent booths that we're having to find different solutions so that we can make sure that we can fit the 50 people that we need to fit in here. So it's definitely been a challenge, but Restaurant 18, for example, has been it's been a pretty smooth transition. We've been able to adapt pretty quickly. It is safe. We are taking this very seriously, and we want to make sure that we can provide the safe dining experience that people are looking for, and they can still come out and enjoy a nice meal and celebrate a birthday, celebrate an anniversary, or just come for a nice date night and still know that they're being well taken care of, that the procedures are happening behind the scenes in the back, that we're taking good care of the food, we're following the proper protocols. We're making sure that if an employee shows any symptoms whatsoever, that they're gone, they get tested, they leave. We make sure that we're quarantining people. Fortunately, fingers crossed, we haven't had any cases between all of our restaurants. And we're really rolling along here in the market. It's been a good last couple of weeks, and we want that to continue. And obviously make sure that we keep everyone safe.
The lockdown in Ottawa set the stage for difficult times ahead for many in our community, but the Ottawa Food Bank was there when needed most. They had some challenging times in the early stages of the pandemic, but thanks to your contributions and of course the partnerships they have with businesses across the country, they were able to help some of the most vulnerable in our community. I visited the Ottawa Food Bank to find out how.
Here at the Ottawa Food Bank, we work in partnership with 112 amazing food programs across the city. These food programs are everything from community food banks to the big downtown shelters, after-school programs. And through those programs, we reach 39,000 people every single month. We would have approximately 30 people on staff in the building, not including volunteers. The majority of those people are our operations team working here in the warehouse. But now during COVID, during the pandemic, that number is much less. So it's really just staff that have to be here to keep the operations going. It was an interesting day when we discovered that the pandemic was reaching Ottawa Immediately, we did all we could to get our member agencies as well as Ottawa Public Health on the phone together to figure out how we can possibly continue food banking in a time when you're supposed to stay home and you're not really supposed to interact with other people. Approximately 3,000 generous people donate their time to us every single year, and we need them. So we had to really be quick on our feet to figure out how to keep our operations going. And we're so grateful for Ottawa Public Health for helping us figure that out. And we're grateful for the member agencies across the city who adapted their own processes to ensure that their neighbors wouldn't go hungry. We saw a lot fewer people donating food pretty much immediately. We're fortunate that the Ottawa community is so generous and really kind and giving, and they are aware of the Ottawa Food Bank and what we do in partnership with our member agencies. And so people were still giving money to us. But food donations basically took a dive to nothing. So that really changed how we had to purchase foods, because there are things that are items that people donate really, really often that we generally don't buy because we don't have to. And now we found ourselves in a situation where we had to start buying these staple items. A lot of the changes that we made in shop here were staff heading home, as well as changing how we operate with our volunteers that you can see behind me. There's plexiglass that sort of separates everything into quadrants, so each volunteer has their own area where they work to help us sort through the food. We had to limit the group sizes of people that could join us in our warehouse. And then we also had to work with our member agencies to help them find a system that works for them. We have incredible grocery store partners in the city of Ottawa, and we could not have gotten through the pandemic without them. We couldn't get through providing to the community without them, quite frankly. And so since we purchase in bulk, we're able to spend our money more wisely on the items that we need, as well the grocery store partners then turn to us when they have excess of items and see if it's something that we need at any given time, and that really helps keep our costs down as well. At 1317 Michael Street, which is our headquartered operation, this is really the hub of where everything happens, where we gather and then distribute food for the 112 programs across the city. So any food that comes to our warehouse, whether it's from somebody doing an event or from grocery stores, donations of any way, shape, or size, they come in through our receiving side, and then they get sorted by volunteers in our volunteer sorting area. And the way that that works is every item that is sorted by volunteers gets seen by 2 individuals. So these people are looking for the quality of the item to ensure that it's okay, and then they're also looking at the best before and or expiry dates to ensure that it's still safe to distribute. We have a fleet of, I believe, 5 refrigerated trucks, and they head out every morning to deliver food to food banks across the city, and they come back every afternoon filled with food that they've picked up at grocery stores or events. And they're very efficient on the road to ensure that we distribute and receive all the food that we need to keep this operation going. As of late, we've done a couple of grant programs to our community food banks. One of them was to purchase a refrigerator or a freezer so they too can distribute meats and dairies and fresh fruits and vegetables. These are the big refrigerators that are a little bit more pricey. A lot of programs don't necessarily have the means to pay for something like that, and we don't want to see those communities not get fresh food as a result. So we were really happy to be able to help to provide those grants to organizations. And then another grant that we have just recently started to pilot is our Global Marketplace grant, which is money going to community food banks so they can purchase the food that their communities request the most. So we know that certain communities have people living there that visit their food banks with different backgrounds, and it's not necessarily food that gets donated to a food bank a lot, but it's food that makes them feel like they're at home. So we want to ensure that these programs can purchase the food that is most welcoming to these people. We are open for business, so Ottawa Public Health is trying to tell people that we have to find a way to live with the virus as safely as possible, and so too are we. So we definitely are accepting donations of food. We still definitely need volunteers to help us with food sorting, to help us on the farm before the harvest season is done in October, and of course always with monetary donations. Those help us out a lot.
All right, well, that's it for me for this week's episode of Operation Support Local. I've got to get on the road because we have a ton of interviews to do for Operation Support Local coming up. Want to mention, of course, if you're coming here to Saunders Farm with your family, your friends, or as Mark calls them, your cohorts, make sure you book online because they will sell out. I will see you next week. Make sure you tune in each and every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Can I get a boost?